Soil functions to provide physical support for plants and to provide water and nutrients to help them grow. It's made up of a mixture of organic and mineral particles, clay, silt, sand, and decomposing organic matter. Between these particles, there are air spaces through which water and gases permeate. Soil can vary in depth, texture, and chemistry. It can be full of rock and gravel, or it can be sticky and full of clay. Its color can be dark or light. Its structure can be light or heavy. Soil texture is generally classified according to its clay, silt, and sand content. Clay soil feels similar to Play-Doh when you rub it between your fingers. Under magnification, the particles are small and plate-shaped. Because the particles are so small, there's not much airspace between them, and as a result, water drains very slowly through clay soils. Here, you can see what happens when you add water to clay soil. What's important to note is that it tends to spread out laterally, and it drains slowly, spreading wider and wider as it percolates. When they are dry, clay soils are typically hard and rock-like. Clay soils compact easily, can be difficult to cultivate, but overall tend to be fertile. A simple test that you can conduct is to take a fistful of your garden soil, moisten it with a little water so you can form a fistful of soil. Now open your fist and poke the ball of soil with your finger. Clay soil does not break up easily when you do this. Sandy soil feels gritty when you rub it between your fingers. That's because the sand particles are much larger than clay. The particles can range in size from fine sand to something that resembles small pebbles. Sandy soils also have larger spaces between the particles. As you can imagine, the more sand you have in your soil, the faster the water will drain through it. This can be a disadvantage. Not only does it dry out more quickly, but the nutrients get washed out as the water drains. Many Californian and Mediterranean natives grow naturally in fast-draining, low-nutrient sandy and gravelly soils, and therefore adapt well to sandy garden soils. Let's look at a sample of soil from a different garden. When you moisten it and form a fist test, you can see how easily it breaks up when you poke it with your finger. As we can see from this diagram, when you add water to sandy soil, it moves quickly downwards. Unlike clay soil, it does not spread out much as it drains. A third mineral component of soil is known as silt. In size, silt particles are somewhat between clay and sand. Silty soil drains more quickly than clay soils, but slower than sandy soils. It's common in valley soils where rivers have deposited sediment. In a fist test, silty soil behaves something like clay, but it breaks up more easily when you poke it. As you might expect, water moves downward through silty soil in a pattern, somewhere between that of sandy and clay soils. These are just some of the ingredients of garden soil, but it contains many others, such as microbial bacteria and fungi, both beneficial and harmful to plants. Garden soil is like cookie dough. Depending on what type and proportion of flour, nuts, flavorings, and other ingredients, you can end up with many varieties of cookies. Loamy soils contain a good balance of clay, sand, and silt, usually between 10 and 25% clay, giving them good drainage and water retention. It may have a lot of organic matter, or very little. It should contain the right amount of macronutrients and micronutrients for the plants you want to grow. A comprehensive soil test will tell you what you have. Another important test to help you understand your soil properties is a percolation test. Here's how to do it. With a shovel or post hole digger, dig a hole 18 to 24 inches deep. Width is not important. Fill the hole with water to the top and let it drain for several hours. Ideally, let the hole drain overnight. Refill the hole to within a couple of inches of the top. To help you measure, place a stick across the top of the hole and use a second stick to mark the water level. Measure drop in water level after 30 minutes and then again in 1 hour. To determine average drop in water level per hour, less than 1/2 inch per hour, poorly drained and suited to plants that can tolerate periods of saturation. 1/2 inch to 1 inch per hour, moderately well drained and acceptable to a wide range of plants. More than 1 inch per hour, well drained and suited to plants requiring fast drainage, such as those native to chaparral and desert regions. In cases where you do not have well-draining soil and you want to grow plants that need good drainage, you can create a raised planter or mound of well-draining soil to grow your plants in. We can't discuss soils without talking about soil chemistry. Here, we could put on our lab coats and get very scientific, but let's keep it simple. You need 2 pieces of information: the soil pH and the chemical content. The pH tells you whether the soil is acidic or basic. It's measured by a numerical scale where 7 is neutral, less than 7 is progressively acidic, and greater than 7 is progressively basic. The chemical content will tell you the levels of major plant nutrients present. Again, it's a good idea to send your sample off to be tested at a soil laboratory to get a good picture of what you're dealing with. It's an expense that's worthwhile and will answer many questions as you plan your new garden. Test results often come with cultivation recommendations to improve your soil. However, consult with an expert before proceeding, as many natives do not like rich soils. Keep the report on file, as it's a valuable resource if you have plant problems later on. If you can't afford a lab test, you can get an approximate measure of your soil from a simple DIY kit from your local garden store or nursery. One further aspect of soils is the organic matter content. This comes from pieces of root, leaves, and decaying debris and adds nutrients to the soil as it breaks down. Adding organic amendments or mulch results in improved soil structure and fertility. Once you know your soil's texture, pH, and nutrient level, how do you use this information for your native garden? There's not one right answer to this question, but some plants prefer well-draining soil with low nutrients, like sandy soil. Others, a rich soil with plenty of moisture and organic matter, like clay or loamy soils. Select plants based on your soil type. For example, your soil is sandy and well-draining. Choose natives that enjoy this kind of environment. If your soil is heavy and slow-draining, choose plants that come from riparian and woodland environments, or that can tolerate moist soils high in organic matter. When planting most natives from dry environments such as chaparral, avoid organic amendments and mulches. However, it is good to add organic amendments and mulches to soil where you are planting natives from woodland and riparian environments.